So let's take a look at how we can use alternate names. Double click to open up the inspector and click on the small pencil icon. Now it's going to come up blank first. So what we'll do is we'll add some alternate names. I click the plus in the bottom right and I'm going to put myself in. I'll add a second. I'll put Philip. I'll add Lionel. And I'll add Simon. Now if I right click on the button, you'll see a new contextual menu item called Rename. And basically if I select one of these names, it's going to change the button name. Now if I code with this in code mode or in capture mode, it will code to that new name, creating a new row and marking the instance that you create in that row. Really easy way to on the fly populate a list of items that you know you're going to choose from, so you don't make a mistake by typing in a new name, is to use the renames in this way. Now sometimes you might have a lot of buttons or a lot of options that you want to create for alternate names. So we've added or developed this in such a way that it works just like the labels tree. So I'm going to create a new item here at the bottom and I'm going to call it players. Now I select players and then I add a branch to the players, a sub option, by clicking on the plus with the little arrow. And so let's start adding some of our developers in here. So I select the root or the branch start and I click on it and I'll add the great old Boris and we'll add Freddie and we'll add Simon. Now if I right click on the rename, you'll see I have a new branch or a sub menu. So I can change that to Freddie, or I can right click and change that to David, and so on. So hopefully you get the idea that you can have thousands of names sitting underneath this, all branched, and you can continue to branch from those also. So if you wanted to go even a layer deeper from David, you would just click that, and then so David now becomes a branch or a menu item, and I'll put Theodore underneath David for whatever reason. And if I right click, it will navigate all the way through and David now becomes a menu item and not a choice. So I click there and that changes his name. So you can drill down quite far and it's really just convenient to categorize your alternate names in such a way that you can put many in there and not have one super long list. Now we've taken this even more to another clever option, is you can actually save this and edit it externally, or you can create one externally and import it. So let's save this. I'm going to click on the save button down here, and this looks just like the menu items do in the main toolbar, or the toolbar items. Save that, and this is going to dump a CSV file. So I'm going to call it test rename, and I'll save that to the desktop. Now I'm going to show this to you in a plain text editor first. I prefer doing this in text editors. Some people would like to do it in Excel or Numbers or whatever, but anything that can open up a CSV file will work. Now here you can see at the top of our menu we had Rex, Philip, Lionel, Simon, and then we had this sub-menu of players and then Simon. Now this is important to understand here if you're doing this in a text editor. These empties are what create that menu, and so that's how SportsCode reads it. So it knows that everything underneath this will fall under players. That's the rhythm at which it parses the file. And again, then you can see here David here creates another submenu or branch by extending that out one more column. So you can edit this in here. When you export it from SportsCode, we choose to use these double quotes so that we don't get any strange punctuation problems when you use this information elsewhere. Numbers and Excel may not do that. So let's take a look and launch this up in Numbers, and you can see the layout, and this looks exactly the same as the labels tree, or really it looks the same as your menu. So if you wanted to change these, you can edit these here. So let's get rid of the David one. That's a little silly one. And let's add a new set of items. So I'm just going to add one called staff. and I'll put Gloria and Karen there. And let's add Shirley also. We got to take care of our admins. And you need to export this as a CSV. You cannot use the numbers or Excel document. So make sure you export it as a CSV file. And I will go ahead and just replace the current one. And I'll close that. And I'm not going to save this because I'm really just using numbers as a CSV converter. So I don't need to save the original numbers or Excel file. So notice no changes here, but let's reload that from the file. And now you can see we easily added these new options. Now again, you can choose to reload that information from button to button, but don't forget that you can go Option, click and drag and create a new button, and that will carry on all the same information. Now the other thing you can do with this is you can auto load it from a file so that every time the code window is open, it will look for this file and load that information. You may have someone externally editing the file, leaving it in a known location, maybe on a server or somewhere on your desktop that you just like to edit in Excel or in Numbers. Makes life a lot easier, especially if you have to manage a long list. So now this will only load every time you open the window, so it does not dynamically change. We can't keep loading it constantly because it just is it's a big hit to load that file over and over and over, especially if it's really big. So let's go ahead and auto load that. I'm going to choose Other, and I'll choose this tester name. I'm going to save my code window on the desktop. Make sure, so we've got that there, and I'll close this. And now what we'll do is we'll open this back up and we'll add some more. So let's click in there and I'll add a couple more people. So let's go ahead and add distributors. And I'll add Rich, Doug, and Kim. Remember to export this. Do not save it and expect it to work. And we'll export it right over the top of the existing one. Again, using this just as a simple way of transforming and re-exporting our CSV. We'll go back into SportsCode, open up our file, and it should have auto-loaded it on load, and there's our distributors. So a neat way to be able to add renames. We have several projects out there where we have to load 250 names throughout a day, and so they can quickly be edited on basically any type of computer, and that file can be distributed or put into a shared location that can be read from, especially if there's changes during, say, heats in kayaking or in boxing or maybe taekwondo. That's kind of a project I could see us using this in.